Oops, sorry, everybody. I was dancing to the tune. But ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you live to episode number 35 of the Primetime Rundown, presented to you, or rather powered by StreamYard right here on the Eastern Observer, as well as Zingo Television, my goodness, channel 199. We are live on Blackjack TV this evening because of New Jersey high school football being aired live on I-95 Sports Network, channel 198. So please, if you've had enough of us, just hit channel up and go see Bobby, because I'm sure it happens after a while with us. But alongside my guys, Ian Schraier, Rob DeLuca, I'm Joey Jarzynka. We cannot thank you enough for joining us here on this Friday evening. A new time here, 7 o'clock. We're going from 7 to 9. And we're going to try something different here. And the reason being is because of, obviously, 6 o'clock is dinner. And we want to make sure that we maximize the viewership. And we hope that we can enter your homes at a good time as opposed to while all of your mouths are full. So please, let's get things started. Ian, Rob, how are you? And it's been one hell of a week. My goodness, ranging with the Yankees winning and the post game with the Jets and the Broncos last night, where Vic Fangio doesn't want to even shake hands because there could be some physical activity. So, how was your weeks?
I would say my week was relatively the same, just about. But from a sports perspective, the Marlins are still going, so that's where I'm at this point.
The Marlins. Yeah, I mean, what a year this week has been, huh? I mean, just from we're thankfully on Friday. Thank God it's Friday, and that probably couldn't ring true more. Just for a whole variety of reasons, but even in sports, because these first round of the baseball playoffs have brought nothing but surprises, really.
It really has. It's brought so many surprises beyond, because not only that, again, as you said, Ian, the Marlins are winning, the Cubbies are not. But before we get started into everything, we want to just mention to everybody that our beginning, or the beginning of our show, and also our show, is presented to you by Black Cats NYC. We cannot thank Tyler Adele, our former co-host, and actually has moved into the back end of our website, etc. And his uncle, Andrew Giordano, has come out with a brand new hit single called Dirty Little Hipster. It's available on Apple Music, Deezer, YouTube, SoundCloud, Amazon Music, Google Play, Pandora, and Spotify. So please, if you are interested in the song that you just heard in the beginning of our broadcast at the top of the hour, please download it and search Dirty Little Hipster. Also, because of the Marlins, we are doing a giveaway here, and this is an 8.5 by 11 photo of the legendary Donnie Baseball, Don Mattingly, when he was with the Yankees. For those that may want to win this photo, this is courtesy of Steiner Sports. Please follow us on Twitter and also at the Eastern Observer on Instagram, and show us how you are celebrating your time watching baseball. It's obviously an odd time, so here are the instructions here. Follow us at the Eastern Observer, or at Observe Eastern on Twitter, and or at the Eastern Observer on Instagram, the Eastern Observer also on Facebook, and show us how you are enjoying the playoffs this fall by sending us a photo. It would be fantastic if you guys were wearing masks, but hey, listen, that would be those are just the little instructions there. That would be pretty cool. So let's get to it, as we were saying. So guys, also we can't forget the Tampa Bay Lightning won their second Stanley Cup in franchise history. Let's get started with that, because the last few minutes we've been talking about baseball, but the biggest thing here, a championship has been brought back here to Tampa Bay, or to the United States, and brought back to Tampa. Pretty cool sight to see Steven Stamkos on the ice. And the last time since we were on here in episode number 34, there was a lot to be spoken about with the Lightning, see how they could do it without Stamkos. I mean, hell, they did it for the longest time. But then also, could Dallas come back? Guys, we know that they could not. They did not. Ian, I want to start with you. You are the stats guru. You are the stats geek. Let's talk a little bit about Tampa and the tough decisions that now they're going to have to face in their defense for the Stanley Cup.
It's their first Stanley Cup since 2004, and it's just great for the Tampa Bay Lightning that it finally happened for them. How many times have they just been denied after having a 3-1 series lead, and it was just great to see them get over the hump. I don't think you could have picked a more deserving player for the Conn Smythe Trophy in Victor Hedman. It seemed like any time that the Lightning needed a big goal or a big play to be made, he was the number 2 pick in his draft for a reason, right behind John Tavares. So there's no, I'm just happy for John Cooper and his team. It was time for them. It just seemed like they were never able to get over that hump. And in Tampa Bay's case, I'm glad it happened this year. Vasilevsky was a stud again between the pipes. They had so many weapons offensively. I mean, they do have a couple of restricted free agents that they have to come up and sign, like Anthony Cirelli, Mikhail Sergachev, some young up-and-coming players that really came into their own during the playoffs. But look, they look certainly set to go for another run in 2021.
Yeah, let's not forget also about Eric Chernak as well, who there's been a lot of chatter where he could possibly get offer sheeted because of his performance in the Cup playoffs and the Cup final as well. DeLuca, your thoughts? You're the hockey guru here in this room. Let's hear your thoughts about Tampa being world champions.
Yeah, hey, what a team. What a run. They had to go through the travel of going to both bubbles, and it was this wasn't an easy season. Pause in March, off for 5 months, and you come back, and you have to not a lot of practice. It was really anybody's cup at this point. It was a very long, very gruesome playoff, both physically and mentally tolling on the players, and Tampa was able to, just from start to finish, really it seemed like this could sound kind of, crazy, but once they won that 5 overtime game against Columbus in round 1, you kind of knew that, if this team can hang, this could be a team that's going to do something special, because they just made history on going 5 overtimes. And then next thing you know, here they are. And it's hard to believe that game was 2 months ago. And it's just a phenomenal run. Dallas, hey, look, props to the Dallas Stars for getting here, to get into the final. Nobody, including myself, expected Dallas to be there, but they did end up meeting their match. Tampa was just way too powerful for them, and just a phenomenal series, and a touch of the heart. Just made sense to see Blake Coleman score a goal in the final game of the series as a Devils fan.
And I wanted to say to Rob also, to kind of piggyback with what Rob's saying, I think you got to give a lot of credit to the Stars, who I think a lot of us all wrote off after Game 3. And we felt that this series was going to end over the next 2 nights at the time in Games 4 and 5. And they had an early lead in Game 4. They were up 2-0 early, and the Lightning come back. They win it in overtime. And even in Game 5, for them to come out and put forth that performance after a devastating Game 4 loss where they could have evened the series, they come back and they pull the series within 3-2. So yes, I don't think anyone expected the Stars to, like Rob said, for the Stars to be there. But I would say over Games 4 and 5, they certainly deserve the credit where it's due of winning one of those games and losing one of those games in devastating fashion. But they certainly played like their backs were against the wall.
Yeah, and not only that, too, but also let's not forget an amazing playoff performance from Joe Pavelski as well, who also set the record to set the record with the most playoff goals by a United States-born skater. That is probably the coolest thing that we have seen this hockey season. Obviously, we've seen the Islanders get to the Eastern Conference Final. That was pretty cool. No bias there. But also, with Tampa being able to win the Cup is something really special as well. And also, again, to be able to see what's going to be happening in the next, let's call it, 7 days or so with free agent frenzy coming around. We'll get to that announcement shortly. But with Tampa, it's going to be a fun ride to see when Andrei Vasilevsky's contract goes from $3.5 million AAV to $9.5 million AAV, and where they can get the help that they can to eventually, again, as we said earlier, to become who knows? Maybe they have to do a lot to defend their title. Fellas, let's keep it moving here. And again, there's a lot to talk about with hockey because it really is a sad, sad time for Ian Schraier and also for a lot of Rangers fans out there. And basically what it comes down to is that the end of an era at Madison Square Garden. And Henrik Lundqvist has been bought out of his $8.5 million final year of his contract. And now he has the ability to go play wherever he desires. And truthfully, that probably is really amazing to see because at some point it was going to happen. The writing was on the wall. And now he's gone. Ian, your thoughts as a fan and also a little bit of what we were talking about last night as well, you and I personally.
Yeah, I mean, look, the resume speaks for itself. I mean, we certainly know that no other player in New York Rangers history is probably ever going to don the number 30 uniform ever again. We're certainly going to see his number get raised to the rafters in the future after he retires. Hopefully by that point, this pandemic will be over and we'll be able to pack out Madison Square Garden and, there'll be 15 to 20,000 raging New York Ranger fans there to watch that happen. I mean, he's obviously, I wouldn't say obviously because, I mean, maybe some people would say Richter or Jacquemin, but arguably he's the greatest goaltender in New York Rangers history. He's at least wherever he goes from here, he's number 6 all time. He's the all-time in terms of NHL history for wins. I think he's the number 2 active goalie in terms of for wins, only behind Marc-Andre Fleury. Vezina winner in 2012. I don't think there's anything to say in regards to future enshrinement into the Hockey Hall of Fame. I certainly think he deserves to be there, but unfortunately he does have that caveat now that in his Rangers career, he's going to kind of get the Marino treatment at this point where he just did not win that championship. Had the opportunity to in 2014, but we certainly know what happened in that series against the Kings. And Joey, if you put that picture up there of Alex, I'm not going to be very happy. I saw you reaching for that mouse. I was hoping you wasn't going to come to that, but I'm going to say it anyway. But the highlight reel saves, I mean, a couple that stick out in my mind. The one against Krejci in Boston that he stuck out the glove and robbed him of a goal, though that series was over at that point. But obviously the one that sticks out in everybody's mind is from the 2014 run when in Game 6 when they clinched the Eastern Conference and clinched their spot in the Stanley Cup Final, when he made that incredible stop in a scoreless game on Thomas Vanek, when he actually hit the puck in the air to redirect it. So there's no doubt that Henrik Lundqvist is the greatest goaltender in Rangers history. You saw that over the last 3 or 4 years that his play clearly regressed. Ranger fans knew this time was coming. I don't think anyone wanted to admit that it was coming. I don't think anyone wanted to feel that he wouldn't retire as a Ranger. As a sports fan and as a Rangers fan, I know a lot of Ranger fans disagree with me in this respect, and I'm not saying that, I don't even think Eli Manning, should have gone out on his own terms. I mean, I'm sorry to say that, but it's true. It's, the Giants forfeited 3 or 4 possible years of a rebuild because they thought Eli Manning still had one more Super Bowl run left in him. It really, even though the Rangers were in the thick of a rebuild, you saw over the last 3 or 4 years that Henrik Lundqvist was no longer the same goalie and Igor Shesterkin was the future for the Rangers between the pipes. So I think that while it's not the prettiest way for him to go out as a buyout, this is the right move for Jeff Gorton, John Davidson, and the Rangers front office. And I certainly can't thank him enough for 15 amazing seasons as a fan.
Yeah, again, I remember there's so many positive memories, from the outsider looking in. And again, there are times where I look and I say, I'm extremely grateful to see the 2014 Stanley Cup Final and the whole Alec Martinez goal, etc. But in all, again, all joking aside, one of and I actually tweeted this and I had said that on the Mount Rushmore of New York athletes, Henrik Lundqvist is on it. There's no doubt about it, whether we like it or not, he is. And, for all 3 of us here, again, where we have at the Coliseum anyway, where we have all of the jerseys that are retired and up in the rafters, those are also a part of New York royalty. And there is no doubt about it that even also even though also Martin Brodeur is also in the same exact category as well. obviously with a few more cups than Henrik has. But again, the numbers speak for itself. And again, I will conclude with this before we get to DeLuca. Probably the greatest goaltender in NHL history to never win a Stanley Cup. We don't know if that will happen, down the road, but it is very possible. Again, just to chime in here, before people, I see there's on our comments here. For those that are looking for the high school football game, Elmwood Park, that is on channel 198 on Zingo Television. It is free to sign up on the I-95 Sports Network. So hopefully that is something that's some helpful information for those that are scrambling to find their sons or whoever it may be, relative, playing in that football game. So thank you for joining us, but the football game is on channel 198, not 199 tonight. Rob DeLuca, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard for me to put into words what Henrik Lundqvist has meant to the city of New York, to the New York Rangers, to the National Hockey League. I mean, this is a guy who came in here, 6th round draft pick in the year 2000, and 7th round pick. And you know, 7th round picks, you don't really think much are going to happen. You know, there's always those rare exceptions, and yet again, here he is, one of the rare exceptions. I couldn't agree with you more, Joey. He's the greatest goaltender in New York, or with Ian, greatest goaltender in New York Rangers history, not even a question. And it is unfortunate he never got the trophy. Hopefully, I literally, obviously, I don't like him, but there's not being a Devils fan. But the respect is always there. It's because he would take it to the next level, especially when he played the Devils. It was very infuriating over the last 15 years to watch him beat us. But nevertheless, I wish him nothing but the best. If he chooses to sign somewhere else and goes for that cup, I wish him nothing but the best. I would love to see Henrik Lundqvist lift that cup over his head before it's all said and done. But it is unfortunate that it will not happen at Madison Square Garden.
Or it could happen at MSG.
Well, in theory, yes. That would require the Rangers going to the final, which, come on, we know that.
Which we're still a few years away from that.
Well, the next thing I was going to say is that similar to the Alan Walsh picture of with Marc-Andre Fleury. That would be the same thing with Ian, where it would be one massive sword in the back if that were to happen. But
I know there's a lot of rumors going around about would he back up in Colorado, obviously a city right now that has a lot of pieces in place to make a run for a championship. There was even a joke that went around that would even the Devils consider taking a run at Lundqvist just on his history and the fact that they're going to be in search for a goaltender. So, I mean, I'm sure it would put the knife in a lot of Ranger fans' back for him to go across the Hudson. But look, like Rob said, I wish Hank nothing but the best. I mean, any Ranger fan, no matter where he goes, any Ranger fan that's going to be disloyal about where he goes is just kidding themselves at this point. I mean, he's the reason why they've gotten to where they have over the last decade and a half, and there's nothing more to be said about it.
Yeah, and the biggest thing too, guys, is that it's going to be really great to see where he goes, and this is actually the perfect segue into our announcement for next week. And the coolest thing, fellas, is that now that the two of you are my co-hosts officially, and for those that did not hear, I know we made it an internal a conversation, if you will, but now it is 100% public. And the coolest thing is that the three of us are going to be on a special called Free Agent Frenzy, and it's going to be next Friday night. Between the times are to be determined right now, but right now we do have it on at 6 o'clock. But it looks like it's going to be 6 o'clock, so that's why I did leave the graphic the way I did. So obviously, continue sticking around with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, social media in general, because that is where you'll find all of our latest information. And the coolest thing also is that this will be the first special that Ian and Rob DeLuca are on with us. So it's going to be really fun, and it's going to be a special all about hockey free agents. And now Ian can now be a little bit excited about where his Rangers might stand. And the same thing goes with Rob DeLuca and the Devils, but to an extent. They just have to reach the cap floor. Other than that, it should be tons of fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, we'll got to spend money, you know. We'll see what happens. And don't knock your New York Islanders. You know they got a lot of work to do.
Oh, I do. Oh, I know. And you know what? And the biggest thing is that but you know what? I don't know if it's going to be free agents. I think it's going to be a lot of trades that could eventually see some pieces heading away. And
you know, somebody that's taking on what, $8 million cap hit at this point.
Exactly. So who knows where we're going to be come next Friday, but also let's not forget after Tuesday's National Hockey League draft. Fellas, let's keep it moving here. And obviously the biggest thing was that we wanted to talk about a little bit of the free agents, but I think we're going to skip on that because we're going to devote all of that time to next week. And let's get to the biggest series aside from the Tampa Bay Lightning winning their second Stanley Cup. How about Major League Baseball playoffs? And there are so many good games, so many upsets. And, you know, it's very funny we speak about these upsets, guys, because just looking at our graphic here, and again, that's my apologies on not making a StreamYard-specific graphic, but again, I know my boss, Rob DeVita, would be very, very disappointed when he sees this graphic and sees how it's displayed here. Ian, I'm sure you're probably kicking yourself and saying, God, I would not hire this kid if it were whatever at your place. But just looking at some of the statistics here, and right now, I'm in dead last, and Ian, Tyler, and DeLuca are all in third place. So many good series, and how many upsets we were just talking about earlier off camera.
Did Joey just say we're all in third place? Aren't we all tied?
Sorry, I'm in dead last.
Well, wait a minute. You just said that we're all in third place.
Wow. All three of you are in first.
We're Padres. So whether we finish 4-4 or 3-5 after tonight,
we're all the same. We're the same here. We're on the same boat here. Wow, we're terrible.
And just to bring that up one more time again, because that was a lot of discombobulation or whatnot. But again, we saw the Chicago White Sox, which we all thought that they would win. They were upset in 3. Houston won in 2. They upset Minnesota.
Minnesota is such hot garbage.
I cannot wait till you get to me on the Twins. I have a
and the New York Yankees came back and won in game number 2 in a very controversial win because of the precipitation that was falling in the beginning of the game, and a lot of comments saying, should they have started this game? Should they have played this game? But let's start off with the first series, and that is right now with the New York Yankees and the Cleveland Indians. So, guys, you know, the Yankees played really well in the first game. Shane Bieber really did not look good in game number 1. The Yankees were almost written off at that point against Shane Bieber because of the numbers that he was posting all throughout this shortened season. But let's not forget, Garrett Cole was the counterpart pitcher for the New York Yankees. And he did absolutely phenomenal. And they came back, or not only they came back, they led the whole time. But then in game number 2, where it was a rain delay, they started when they probably should not have, and that was a lot of controversy. Guys, let's talk about this and how this could have a major impact on the game of baseball, and not only that, but also their integrity about maybe protecting their own players.
One thing that happens is when in the sport of baseball is it's completely, it's not even so much up to the league office. The league office is not going to call down. When the game starts, it's completely up to the umpires as to whether or not they want to pull the players off the field. Do I disagree with the fact of why they were going to play through a rainstorm? Yeah, I mean, look, the Cubs and Marlins had their game 2 postponed. Why exactly weren't the Yankees and Indians rescheduled for another day? And I'm sure when the Yankees were down at the time 4-1, that every Yankee fan was like, why are they playing? Why are they playing? And trust me, I read it right down on my Twitter feed about how many Yankee fans were upset about the fact that the Yankees and Indians were still playing. I'm sure a lot of that attitude changed after Gio Urshela hit that grand slam. And I don't think I ever saw another Yankee fan on Twitter complain when the Yankees went up 5-4. It was certainly there wasn't a lot of great pitching aside from Garrett Cole in this series. The Yankees still took it in 2. Gio Urshela, I mean, what more can be said about him in game 2? I mean, it was Chapman comes in the bottom of the 8th. He gives up the go-ahead run. He should have given up 2 more if not for Urshela turning that spectacular double play on his back. It's very possible, I would say likely, that we're watching a game 3 tonight at Progressive Field between the Yankees and the Indians if Urshela does not turn that double play, and then they take that momentum and put up 2 off Brad Hand and end up winning the game 10-9. So the Yankees right now are putting it together offensively like they were expected to 3 months ago. So they are certainly getting hot at the right time. 22 runs scored in 2 games. They're getting contributions from just about every part of the lineup. And we obviously know their depth. So everybody at this point right now is healthy, or at least healthy to a certain degree. You know what you're getting out of Voit. You know what you're getting out of Judge. Even Stanton's contributing right now. So that as a Yankee fan, you really can't complain too much. The only concern that they have still is something that they really expected to be a staple was their bullpen, which has not been a staple right now. And aside from Garrett Cole, their starting pitching is incredibly questionable. But if you're scoring 22 runs in 2 games, it's going to be an exciting series against the Rays. But I'm not so sure that even the Rays pitching can handle the Yankee offense right now.
That's a bold statement, Ian. Schraier. That is a bold tap. Bold statement. And the biggest thing right now is that you brought up the fact that beyond Garrett Cole, beyond Tanaka, and he's another question mark as well, you have to look also at the pitching change that happened. I think it was the 8th inning, Rob DeLuca, or right around there, the 7th to the 8th inning.
Depends what pitching change you mean.
I'm talking about when Aaron Boone went to Loizaga.
Yep. I believe I was in the 6th inning after using Britton then, and also Ottavino getting a chance in that game.
Right. Well, that was the whole thing, was that there was inevitably nothing coming from Adam Ottavino. There was not a single bit of confidence or any faith from Aaron Boone to be able to put him in. And it was a very, very questionable pitching change where even some of the broadcasters, this is something that you normally would not hear from a Matt Vasgersian or an Alex Rodriguez or even Buster Olney as well, who was on the call for that game saying, wow, that is a very questionable call. And this is stuff that you normally see, like when you play a video game, like when you make any swaps or whatever that are, make completely no sense. This is something that was very close to that. And I was very, very, very hesitant on that as well. But I like what Ian said there, where you don't know if the Tampa Bay pitching can take that offense.
Whoa. I didn't say it that way. I just said I think it's going to be a lot for the Rays to handle. I think it's going to be a lot for the Rays pitching to handle. I mean, look, did Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow have good starts against the Blue Jays? Yes, but the Jays are a young and up-and-coming team. The Yankees have just averaged 11 runs over 2 games. I don't know the 2 scores off the top of my head, but I'm not so sure the Blue Jays scored more than a few runs in that series against the Rays. So I'm not saying that the Rays don't have 2 or 3 lockdown pitchers. I mean, if you look at their regular season stats, Blake Snell didn't have a good year. Tyler Glasnow did not have a good year. So I know the Rays went 8-2 this year against the Yankees in the regular season. The Yankees are hitting their stride at exactly the right time. I refused to believe the writers that said, these Yankees are giving me a big-time feel of the Washington Nationals from last year. There were writers that were saying it. I refused to believe it, and that's why I took the Indians in 3 games. I mean, not like I wasn't expecting a sweep, but that's why I took the Indians. I didn't think the Yankees were going to be able to produce in these 2 games the way that they have. So it's a lot to go off of right now. I mean, I'm not sure what the average score was between the Yankees and the Rays in the regular season, but this is a different Yankee team than what we're seeing right now in the postseason.
Yeah, Ian. It's a healthy team in comparison to what the Yankees had to put up against Tampa Bay during the regular season. It was not many games against Tampa Bay where they were running a full lineup like they are right now. So this series will be very, very interesting. And Joey, I apologize, I cut you off there. You go.
No, that's okay. That is completely okay. Please finish your thought.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Look, the Yankees had a great series. They dominated Game 1. You love to see it, and I certainly enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed that from start to finish. Game 2 couldn't have been more of a heart attack for me. There was at no point was I actually enjoying that, really. I mean, when your team's in it, it's such a different feel. Like, Joey, I probably felt like you did with the Islanders all playoff long for the NHL, and I haven't had that feeling in a very, very long time, not since one calendar year ago, obviously, with the same New York Yankees.
Yeah.
But because that's the only team that ever gets me any happiness anymore. But nonetheless, they stuck it out. I couldn't be more proud as a Yankees fan that they are moving on in 2, and I feel they had to do it in 2. I feel if this went to a Game 3, which would have been yesterday, I don't think we're sitting here today talking about the New York Yankees. I think we'd be sitting here talking about the Cleveland Indians. But nonetheless, we're talking about the Yankees because they moved on, as did Tampa Bay. Sets up a beautiful division rival in the LDS. I think it could be it could go one way or another. Like Ian said, if the Yankee offense shows up like they did, but now there's a lot of time off, so things could cool down. You just never know anymore. And with the Yankees using Kyle Higashioka for Garrett Cole every time, that's a connection that seems to be working. So obviously you don't mess with that. So I think this will be a very competitive series with Tampa, and it's just going to be very close, very, very likely a 5-game set.
Yeah, and not only that too, but also they have to now go to, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's San Diego.
Yeah, that's correct.
They head to, and it's now a best of 5, so they're going to be going all the way through 3 different time zones, and now they're going to be starting this bubble play, if you will. These are actual bubbles, folks. We'll get to that whole dilemma later on in the show. And the moment I hear MLB and bubble, I think, like, what are you talking about? So that's kind of the way I think. But in terms of this, yes, there is going to be a bubble, and it is San Diego, and it's going to be Tampa Bay versus the Yankees. Starts on Monday night on TBS. We do not know the time yet, still to be determined. I'm assuming it'll probably be a primetime game. We'll see what the Astros and the Athletics will be, which is actually the perfect segue into our next our next series, which was Houston and Minnesota. So, fellas, I want to start off with this little graphic here, and this is directly from Houston Astros public relations, and I got to tell you, they got some cojones, fellas, because this is something else. Quote, people are mad. People don't want to see us here. What are they going to say now? We're a solid team. We won a series on the road in Minnesota. So what are they going to say now? End quote. That is directly from Carlos Correa. So for that to be posted on there, and again, what Carlos Correa said, in my opinion, is bongos completely, because you're now officially 500, if you think about it. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think they were 2 games under 500.
Something
They came in
29 like that. Yeah, I think they were like 29 and 31. Yeah, I think you're right.
So then now with 2 wins, 29 plus 2 is 31. You're officially 500. Congratulations. You got there. Good for you. Fellas, your thoughts on this. And now, let's not forget, Justin Verlander also is going to be out all of 21.
Wow. Oh, okay. So, yeah, I mean, look. Yeah, let me tell you about this. So, yeah, look, Houston, yeah, you did beat Minnesota on the road. Yeah, Minnesota, the most useless, most pathetic playoff team probably in existence. This team is so bonkers bad once you get to the show of the playoffs. They can't win a series, even a game, to save their life when it's on the line. That's 18 in a row now. So, yeah, Houston, it's really not that impressive that you won against the worst statistical playoff team in Major League Baseball, potentially in Major League Baseball history. I don't think we've ever seen a run like this of the Minnesota Twins. So, yeah, let's see how you do against Oakland in a real series and see if you're still talking after that.
Yeah, I agree with Rob 100%. Aside from Nelson Cruz in that 2-game series with for the Twins, the Minnesota Twins as an offense batted 5 for 53. That's an 0.54 batting average from the other 8 players that they're running out there in their lineup in both games. 5 for 53. And then in game 2, I mean, I forgot the name of the home plate umpire that was behind the dish for game 2, but Eddie Rosario, I mean, they're down a run or two, is getting himself rung up in a must-win game on balls and strikes. So your cleanup hitter is now getting tossed out of the game. I thought this was going to be finally the year for Minnesota. Everything I was watching, everything I was researching led to, people to believe this is it for Minnesota. Don't go against them based on their history of postseason futility. There's nothing to worry about here. Houston's going to advance to the ALDS. Well, looks like all 4 of us, including Tyler Adele, were wrong about the Minnesota Twins for believing the hype in the Twins once again. They just never seem, like Rob said, to get it done when it really matters. Yep, and we all picked them in 2, and it turned out to be the other way.
They may have also partially been in our hatred of the Houston Astros for all this.
Well, no, I mean, listen, I was definitely battling with it when I made that decision because there was part of me that's like, Houston's been here before. They've won a World Series. Whether or not they cheated, they've won a World Series. The Minnesota Twins can't ever seem to get out of their own way in the first round. So there was part of me that was leaning towards taking Houston, but I just put it on the fact that they were an under 500 team this year. So, but I'm going to take the Houston side here for a second. Are they a team to really watch out for? Recent history, as I just suggested, says yes because of their success. I'm just saying based on recent history, whether or not they cheated. Let's throw the cheating out the window. The players that they still run out there on a daily basis in their lineup, Carlos Correa, Jose Altuve, George Springer, Alex Bregman, that can go up and down the list. They're obviously – it's a lineup full of great hitters that we've seen over the last few years. But how well did the Astros play in that 2-game series? And how much stake, like I said, are we putting into this series against a team that is so futile in the postseason? In game 1, the game was tied at 1 going into the 9th inning. The Twins had a chance to get out of the inning with 2 outs and the bases loaded, and their shortstop throws the ball away on a double play ball. Or no, I'm sorry, there was 2 outs, so it would have just been a force out at second. Throws the ball away, leads to a 3-run inning. Houston wins 4-1. So did you really hit well in that inning, or did you just catch a break because the Twins threw the ball away? So I don't think the Astros played well in that series. I just think that they ran into a team that just flat out played worse. And I think Oakland's got a real good opportunity on their hands here. I mean, Oakland's another team that has had real postseason futility. We'll get into the A's in a second. But this year it seems like that they're finally finding a way to put it together thanks to guys like Chris Bassett and a nice come from behind win in game 3. So, and the Astros this year were 3-7 against Oakland. So as long as the A's can somehow put it together, and they're coming off a much more dramatic win, and I think they have much more momentum right now than the Astros do, I would certainly give Oakland the edge in the division series against Houston.
Fellas, let's not forget, too, how about catcher Sean Murphy, who has really come into his own? And you have to realize something also is that another player who is the cornerstone of this franchise is Matt Chapman, and he is out. He is done. So now, what is the next thing? It is next man up. And right now, with the Oakland Athletics, right, we'll get to them in a minute. But the way the Athletics are, I personally believe that they're going to win. No bias. But I think right now with the way Houston is going, I don't know how much you can rely on Zach Greinke in the huge game. We saw it last year in the World Series. He couldn't get it done. Neither could Justin Verlander, but you had to realize something is that you actually had Verlander there to potentially say, all right, let's try this. You now don't have him. You now have Lance McCullers. The last name starts with a U.
Jose Urquidy. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. I was going to say you're Quady. Exactly. So with him as well, you have down the rotation, it becomes very questionable.
Sure.
Right? The only one, and again, you can't bring out Zach Greinke every single day. Again, we must realize that this ALDS, there are no off days. It is in a bubble. It is Monday through Friday, and then the ALCS starts, and the league championship series will start on that Saturday. So there is no days off. Next week when we are back on, even though we're not going to be talking about it, is that the day after, literally in 12 and 15, 20 hours, whatever, the league championship series is going to be out. So we don't know what's going to happen with Houston, because all of a sudden, Carlos Correa says this, but the only thing that I could think of when it comes to Carlos Correa is this. So, again, it's really, I think, gutsy of him to bring up something along those lines where, well, you wrote us off and you won against a team that has not won. Now, these notes are identical here as what we found on MLB.com. They have not won a playoff game, not a series, a playoff game since the year 2004. Fellas, where were you in 2004? I think I was age 9 and I think in 3rd grade.
You're making me feel really old right now.
Joey, I was about 9 years old. I'm in 4th grade, and I was probably just finishing. Yeah, I mean, at that point, I'm probably,
as two Yankee fans sharing this show with me, I don't think you guys want to know where I was in 2004. I mean, I was in college watching the American League Championship Series and watching the Red Sox eventually go on to win the World Series. So that's where I was at the time.
Yeah.
You guys might not remember the 04 ALCS as vividly as I do, but I mean, you left it open there, Joey.
That is true. You are
right. In 2004. I'm glad to tell you where I was.
Yeah, exactly. But again, 2004 have not won a playoff game since then, the Minnesota Twins. You really did not accomplish much. This team is bound for failure once they reach the big game or once they reach the show, as per Rob DeLuca. And also, I don't want to say, well, in Minnesota's defense, they did not have their best hitter in Josh Donaldson. No, that's not the case, because Josh Donaldson, really, I don't know if he would have made that impact where
the way they played.
He could bring him, to the promised land. He was a non-factor. So
you knew that game 2 was over in the 8th inning when Nelly Cruz, with 1 out, the only guy on the team that was doing anything offensively, draws a walk. Rocco Baldelli signals to Cruz to come off the field, who was actually the DH. So to come off first base, he puts Byron Buxton, who had an injury entering the series, comes in to try to steal a base. They're down a run. I don't remember if they were down a run or 2, but they were either the tying run was either Buxton or the guy coming to the plate, who I think was Sano, and he gets picked off first base. At that point, you just knew the series was over, because I mean, ESPN was even saying the Twins are showing us nothing offensively.
Yeah.
One opportunity that they have to try to get something going, to have a guy on base that can steal bases and is known for stealing bases because of his speed, gets caught sleeping at first base, leading from first base. So that series was over. But to Houston's credit, garbage pails be damned. This team always finds a way to get the timely hit. I completely disagree with Carlos Correa's comments. I understand that team has a huge chip on their shoulder, whether or not they cheated. We know they cheated, but that team has a huge chip on their shoulder. So I'm sure they wanted to come out and say, hey, we won these 2 games. We were under 500. You're playing the Twins, so relax. But Houston always just has this niche for getting the timely hit. I mean, how many times over the last few years have we seen Altuve or Correa come up with the big hit? Correa had to go ahead solo homer in game 2 without any garbage pails. So you can't dismiss the Astros just based off their history, but I do like Oakland in the division series.
Yeah, and again, now we'll head into the Oakland Chicago White Sox series, and then obviously we'll preview a little bit there. This is going to be the second to last series that we will talk about. With obviously Cardinals, Padres being Marlins, Cubs that I want to end off with. Fellas, in three games, Oakland, which I did not expect. Chicago really stunk up the bed here, but they did. You know what? Listen, in game number 3, they did out-hit Oakland. 12 hits to 8. But unfortunately, it was the pitching that really came through. In really don't get me wrong, Mike Fiers really was absolutely abysmal in that start where he had, I think he pitched 1 2/3 innings, 5 hits, a home run, 2 strikeouts. There really was not much there. But then on the opposite side, though, it was obviously the opener, and things just didn't really work out well. Alex Colomé, did his job, but unfortunately, right in the middle of the game, things started to go downhill, and that's where Sean Murphy became the eventual or hit the game-winning home run.
Well, the problem with the White Sox is the fact that there was just no depth in the rotation outside of Lucas Giolito and Dallas Keuchel, and I think the hope was that the White Sox were going to be able to deliver a sweep with Keuchel on the mound. I mean, if you look at the box score from Game 3, they pretty much ran Johnny Holstaff out there. I mean, they literally had an opener and who I think went 1 1/3, and continued just to roll bullpen arms out there. Guys like Aaron Bummer and I know their closer, like you said, Joey, Alex Colomé went out there for an inning. Look, they led 3-0 after 3. Luis Robert had that monster, I think it was 487-foot home run.
Yeah.
They led 3-0 after 3. But kudos to the Oakland Athletics for coming up with some real timely hitting. I mean, Sean Murphy, you said coming into his own. You got that right. I mean, he was a 9-hitter in that lineup. Came away with a 2-strike, 2-out, not 2-strike, but 2-out, 2-run homer to pull the A's within 1. Then the next inning, you had Chad Pinder come up as a pinch hitter and deliver a 2 RBI single with 2 outs. So credit to the Oakland A's. I mean, I still thought the White Sox were going to take Game 3 simply because I just thought they had enough offensive firepower with the A's not having Matt Chapman. But it wasn't even guys like Matt Olson and Mark Cunha and guys like that were coming through, and Marcus Semien that were coming through for Oakland. It was their 9-hitter, their catcher, who's, like you said, Sean Murphy, who's hitting .444 through 2 games in the postseason so far, and a pinch hitter named Chad Pinder. So Oakland, I mean, they did everything they need that was necessary to come away with that Game 3 win. They were fantastic offensively. Granted, in Game 2, Liam Hendricks nearly blew it. Thankfully, Jose Abreu on the first pitch he saw grounded out the other way, and Oakland's advancing. But, just timely hitting.
DeLuca.
Yeah, I mean, look, this series was I kind of expected it to go 3. I'm pretty sure I had White Sox in 3, but that's not obviously how it went. And, it really did, as you said, Joey, it came down to pitching. And, look, Lucas Giolito threw a gem in Game 1. Obviously, that gave the White Sox the edge, but
perfect through 7.
Yeah, and then just after that, it just seemed like you knew something wasn't right with the White Sox. Just they didn't get it from Dallas Keuchel. They didn't get it from not quite sure who started yesterday, but they just
it was an opener, Rob.
Yeah, I thought
they ran their whole bullpen out there.
Yeah, I thought they threw a bullpen game. Yeah, which is honestly a bold strategy to throw in an elimination game. Honestly, in my personal opinion, but nonetheless,
they have no one else.
No, they have no depth.
That's a flaw in the White Sox system. And you saw them kind of – it was tough to pick against the White Sox, but at the same time, there was definitely a case for you to pick against them just because of how they ended the regular season. I'm pretty sure at one point their magic number to clinch the division was 1, and they literally never got it. They literally did not win. The Indians ended up sweeping them in a 4-game set, and they never won the division. Minnesota pulled away and took it. And you just wonder if the White Sox could just do that one thing. They play Houston instead, and then what happens? happens? You don't know, but it's just all these what ifs. But no, yeah, props to Oakland for without arguably their best player in Matt Chapman just coming here. And, well, I mean, granted, they were in their own ballpark, so I mean, advantage there. When you play in your own ballpark, it makes such a huge difference. But they were able to last it all 3 games, and lo and behold, they have to go to San Diego and play Houston, and I expect that to be a competitive series, another potential 5-game series. I, of course, would personally like to see it in less, but that's bias speaking. But non-bias speaking, I would say you're definitely looking at 2 potential 5-game sets on the AL side in the division series.
Yeah,
you want to talk about and I'm going to piggyback off what you're saying, Robin. I didn't mean to cut you there, but you want to talk about wanting to play at your home stadium. Is there a team in the playoffs that would want to play at their home stadium more than the New York Yankees would? I mean, if you look at their splits between their home and their road splits, I think they were
150%.
Yeah, they were 12 games for 500.
That's what I was worried about. They were 21-9, I believe, at home.
21-7.
21-7, right? They only got 28 games at home. Yeah, so they were 21-7 at home, and then they have that road record, and it was just no good. You know?
Yeah.
So it was tough. It was tough to see that it was no good. But they went to Cleveland and they prospered.
We spoke about this in the last episode. 11-18 on the road. 11-18 on the road. The New York Yankees were, and they were 21. The New York Yankees were 21-7. It looks like we lost Rob DeLuca for a few seconds, but 11-18 on the road, 21-7 at Yankee Stadium. Really, really, really crazy stuff. But again, we'll get to the Yankees again later on. But Ian, while we wait for Rob here, I think the biggest thing here is that, and we have to discuss this because I praised the Cincinnati Reds for quite a long time. And really, really tough spot, and they really let me down. And Raisel Iglesias in game number 2 really let me down.
You really want to get into this series, huh? You really want to talk Reds Braves, huh?
Listen, let me
look. I mean, what I could say about the Reds Braves series is, Game 1 was Cincinnati's opportunity to jump all over this series. Trevor Bauer was absolutely brilliant. I was working from home on Wednesday and had a chance to watch just about every single inning of that game. And I believe the final score was in 12 or in 13 innings. The Cincinnati Reds had multiple chances to get to that Braves bullpen. Max Fried pitched really well, but had and even had chances to get on to Max Fried in the first inning and didn't score. But multiple opportunities, I think in the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, had the bases loaded, had second and third, had first and third with either nobody out or one out, and could not scratch across a run. And if anybody was following on Twitter, when I retweeted the picks that we've shown throughout the show so far, and said if Trevor Bauer can't put it together, now look, Trevor Bauer put it together. I should have said if the Cincinnati Reds can't put it together with Trevor Bauer on the mound in game 1, this series is probably going to be over, and so be it. The series was over in 2.
Now, just to elaborate on what you were talking about with Trevor Bauer, he in game number 1, 7 2/3 innings pitched, grand total of 2 hits. But how many strikeouts? He had 12 strikeouts.
Yep.
He was flawless. The game was scoreless through 13 innings. That was the longest, and this is a little bit of history, longest postseason extra innings game that was scoreless, which really is a pretty cool stat because I honestly would never think that 0-0 in the 13th inning has never happened before in a playoff game. But hey, listen, 2020 comes with brand new things. And
well, the part about the Reds that I thought that where they should have capitalized was I believe it was in the 11th inning where Votto was on second.
Right.
I think it was with 1 out. Otherwise, they would have sent him. The third base coach would have sent him. But Eugenio Suarez, who was 0 for 4 at that point in the game, singles through the left side. And at this point, you've put runners on base. And keep in mind, here's another stat for everyone that's watching. the Cincinnati Reds had the lowest batting average in Major League Baseball this year with runners on base. Either that or the second lowest. So you're abysmal with driving runners in. You have a runner in scoring position. You have the momentum now. Suarez puts one through the left side, and they stop Votto at third. At that point, listen, I'm a advocate for not running, for not running yourself out of an inning. I hate it when it happens. I see it so much as a Mets fan. But when you haven't been able to scratch across anything through the regular season or in the postseason yet in terms of being clutch, you got to send Votto there. Whether he's going to run like he's got a piano on his back or not, you got to try and score a run there. If you get thrown out of the inning, so what? At this point, at least you took a shot. You tried to get the left fielder to make a perfect throw. That didn't happen. They get Moustakas for the final out, and then the Braves end up winning on the Freeman single in the 13th. But in that situation, when you just struggle to score with runners on base, you got to take a chance at some point, and the Reds did not.
Yeah, Ian, I couldn't agree more. I mean, look, that game, I was actually at ABC for that one, watching it on ESPN, and I was like, you know what? I literally said it a couple times. I was like, this game and the Reds are clearly cursed right now, because I do not understand how you have 11 hits in the game and don't score a single run. That just is that is a mind-boggling stat to me, to be in the double digits on the hit category, but have a goose egg on the run side of the scoreboard. It was just unbelievable. And then just too many blown chances by the Reds, and that's when you kind of had to know at that point that the Braves were going to take that series. And, of course, who else but Freddie Freeman to be the hero in Game 1 and set the tone in what was clearly going to be a defensive series.
Yeah, really, really unbelievable to see what the deal was. And then, of course, in game number 2, things were working out decently. Luis Castillo, it was okay. But then once Raisel Iglesias got into the game, he let up 2 home runs in a third of an inning pitched, 2 hits, 4 runs, 3 of them were earned, 2 walks, a strikeout, and as I did say at the start of that sentence, 2 home runs let up. And that was really it, guys. Cincinnati really had no answer for Atlanta. And Atlanta can finally say now that maybe some of their playoff demons in this previous decade are now maybe behind them. Maybe they've left them in the 2010 decade. Who knows? We will see what's going to happen. But now it's going to be Braves and the Marlins. We'll get to that later on. Guys, American League, National League, for the AL and NLDS that is on its way. What is the most intriguing matchup that we see here thus far? Obviously, Cardinals-Padres are still going, but they're the only series that's left.
Yeah, I mean, look, there might be a little bias here, but also look, this might be even a little bit of a bold take. The new rival, the new hot rivalry of the AL East is probably the most intriguing matchup here. And yes, I just said that. With the Boston Red Sox the way they are right now, Yankees-Red Sox is no longer a exciting rivalry at the moment. The Yankees went 9-1 against them this season, and the 9 wins were with ease. The loss was an easy win for the Red Sox. They were playing spoiler, and they managed to do the job there, prevent us from clinching. But in the end, that's not what happened. The Yankees obviously ended up getting a spot, but still, nevertheless, the way the Red Sox are right now, that's not competitive baseball. I don't even know if you could call what they were playing baseball half the time. But nonetheless, yeah, the new rivalry of the AL East right now, Yankees-Rays, should make for a great 5-game set. But, hey, look, Astros-Athletics is also a division rivalry series, and as is Marlins-Braves. Right now we're just looking at division rival versus division rival, especially if the Padres manage to pull off the victory tonight. Then you've got Dodgers-Padres. It could just be a plethora of rivalry throughout the rest of the playoffs.
I'm actually struggling a little bit as to say which I'm actually going to go to the National League and say I think that actually has and this is contingent on the Padres winning, has the more intriguing matchups of the 2 leagues. Listen, I think Yankees-Rays is going to be a solid series, but Dodgers Padres to me is the one series that if the Padres do advance stands out to me. You've got one of the best pitching teams in term and also hitting teams in baseball going up against another powerful. Obviously, they played each other 10 times this season as division opponents. But Dodgers Padres, I mean, the mashing of bats in both those lineups would be so much fun to watch. Cody Bellinger, Mookie Betts, Corey Seager going up against Fernando Tatis, Jake Cronenworth, Eric Hosmer, Will Myers. It seems like what we saw in the Indians game 2 last night is what we would see in that best of 5 the whole way through.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm praying just for the sake of the San Diego Padres, if they do advance tonight, that it does not look like Mike Clevenger is going to be ready for the division series. They're not even so sure if he's going to be ready for the postseason, but that they get Dinelson Lamet back. Chris Paddock is an absolute dumpster fire. I didn't understand. I don't want to bring the Mets into this conversation, but when that whole rivalry between him and Pete Alonso, I'll be better than Alonso, dude. Your ERA is like a 6. And then you got sent down to the minor leagues to work on your mechanics last year because you couldn't do it. So I remember I texted you, Joey, and I was like, oh man, the fact that Paddock is starting game 1. And then of course right on cue, I think the Cardinals scored 5 runs in the first 2 innings. Shocking.
Yeah.
So
he scored 4 runs in the first inning and 2 in the third.
Oh, so excuse me, 6. So they need their starting pitching back. I mean, if not, I think the Dodgers are going to have a much easier time mashing against the Padres starting pitching than maybe so much the Padres mashing against guys like Walker Buehler. Can Kershaw finally get off, the pine, so to speak, with regards to his postseason struggles? Dustin May is another pitcher that throws really hard. So, in terms of the edge, the Dodgers certainly have the edge right now in terms of starting pitching, but I think that's going to make for a fun series. But don't count out Braves Marlins as like a 1A to that series, because look, the Marlins shocked me. I mean, somehow the Cubs did not find a way to hit against a team that was running maybe not 3 rookies, but Alcantara was there last year, but more or less 3 rookies, at least 3 newbies to the postseason, and they didn't even need to get to a third game. They actually swept them in 2. Javi Baez, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo all couldn't perform against that pitching. The bullpen was sensational for Miami, and we know Atlanta struggles in the postseason, so I would consider that Braves-Marlins series to be I'm actually even more excited for that series just because that can, for a team like Atlanta that has their postseason struggles, and the Marlins, who seem to be the Cinderella story of the year, and I sure hope Don Mattingly is the National League Manager of the Year. He certainly seems like the front runner for it. That series could easily go 3, and I could see Miami actually taking that series and representing in the National League Championship Series. I'm not guaranteeing it. It's going to happen, but right now they are getting great pitching and timely hitting. I mean, they're kind of in the same ballpark right now with Oakland. And the thing is that when you compare those 2 teams, there's no comparison. Oakland's a much better team, but somehow the Marlins are finding a way to put it together after the first 2 weeks of the season. They played 1 game and then were sidelined for COVID-19 for 2 weeks. I mean, it's going to be it's already some story, and I'm curious to see how much further it goes.
It's very funny that you bring up with the Miami Marlins, because they also clinched the wild card series this afternoon.
Yep.
Without Starling Marte, they're one of their, if not their best player, with a broken knee. So I think that without him and with Sixto Sanchez, really 98, 99, 100 miles an hour just being lights out. And on top of it, too, hearing on the broadcast, too, that the Chicago Cubs were one of the worst teams with the heater is this whole season, 98 and above. Their batting average was way, way down, like in the low 200s. It just showed, and the writing was all over it, that the Marlins would be able to upset. And guess what, fellas? The 3 of us all chose the Cubbies to win, but Tyler Adele actually.
I was going to say, good credit to Tyler. He got it.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you right now, that was 100% a guess. That was 100% a guess. But going back with the Padres and with the Dodgers, guys, I think the biggest thing here is if the Padres do come out and win, again, this is going to be for however long the Padres are in this is going to be the pitching. This evening, Craig Stammen is making a spot start, or he's going to be an opener for the first time since 2010. So now, obviously, for his sake, right now, it's still 0-0, top of the third. Right now, the Padres, and not only that, but also Craig Stammen, it looks like that they're just going, they're going piece by piece here. Craig Stammen.
Well, the Padres, Joey, did announce that that after Game 2 that they did not feel comfortable running a starter out there for Game 3, that they felt that they were going to run a bullpen game out there for Game 3. So that announcement had come already from the Padres in advance of Game 3.
Well, that's fair, but still, again, regardless of whatever it is, what if, that puts a lot of pressure on your starters heading into Monday. But the good thing, though, is that you still do have technically 2 full days off where these guys would be able to get some rest, which is a good thing. But again, now is going to be the hardest part when it's going to be 5 consecutive days of play for the ALDS, and then directly we go into the LCS. So I think there's, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's like 8 or 9 straight days of baseball being played. And again, not a single off day. So we also do not know the times. All television times are to be determined. So we could see a day game. I don't think so, but again, you never know. With some of these low profitable teams, we could be seeing a 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock start on ABC, similar to the Cubbies. We don't
see like a 4, this is going to be pretty much like traditional programming, like it would be in any division series. I think we'll see like a 4 p.m. and an 8. Like, so in the American League, like the Oakland A's are probably going to start 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. East, because Oakland and the White Sox are not going to draw the ratings. The Yankees are. So they'll put all the Oakland games on at 4 and put the Yankee games on at 8.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And the same would apply with like the Dodgers and the Braves. The Dodgers and Padres, if that's how it ends up, would be even the Dodgers in themselves, if they play the Cardinals, would be the premier game over Braves Marlins. So again, it would be the Dodgers getting the late game and the
it's all contingent on these time zones now, because you got they're out west. They're out west. Anything would be 8 o'clock here, would be 5 o'clock there. So
but the National League is playing in
Texas, which is Central Time. So
so they started like what, 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. And then technically, I guess 6 o'clock. But everything it runs off Eastern time when it comes to
pretty much.
I mean, look, the Super Bowl is started every year at 6:26, even if it's played in California, and the Super Bowl.
True. 3 o'clock must be nice over there on the West. 3 o'clock start on the Super Bowl. You still got your whole day ahead of you, even after the big game ends.
You guys talking over each other. It's really unbelievable. Like, what are you guys doing here? You guys are talking over each other. You can't. What are you guys doing?
There's nothing wrong with a little bantering, Joey. That's all.
It's a banter. It's open. This is open discussion. This isn't. We're not going debate style here. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Let me tell you something, DeLuca. I have no problem with it, but Adam Gase does have a problem with it. And he's got a little bit of a problem. He's got a little bit of a problem with everyone going crazy here. And just to conclude with baseball, Dusty Baker becomes the first manager ever to lead 5 different teams to the postseason. Really good stuff. The Marlins made the playoffs for the first time in 2006 since 2016. Really cool stuff. And then also, let's not forget, as well as the Cubs, even though they're not here anymore, they did clinch their first NL Central title since 2017. That all means bupkis right now, but those are a couple of the stats that I wanted to bring up. So we brought up Adam Gase just a few minutes ago, so it's the perfect segue into NFL. And, again, last night, guys, first we'll actually start with week number 3. We'll recap a few of those games And Ian texted me about an hour and a half ago regarding my Lord and Savior in Nick Foles. And that is who we are going to start off with, because Nick Foles is really a savior, not only in Philadelphia, but also in Chicago. Because let's not forget, guys, Chicago and Atlanta, 26-10 was the score, and that is the new 28-3 for Atlanta fans. 26-10 is now going to be the score that could potentially be written all over Dan Quinn's departure when it does happen. It won't be an if, it will be a when, because clearly he cannot hold leads. And it even goes back to the Super Bowl. Nick Foles does not matter. He's a backup quarterback. Does not matter about what he's done. He's been on the bench. He had no preseason, and he comes back and scores all of those unanswered points, and now will be the aforementioned starter for the Bears, supplanting Mitch Trubisky, the former number 2 overall pick in the year that Patrick Mahomes was picked later on in the draft. I don't even know what to say to this, because it's a never-ending story with Atlanta, how they just keep blowing games.
I saw a stat on ESPN after the games that ended in week 3, and it showed the win probability for the Atlanta Falcons. And Rob's like, go ahead, take it. I know.
Yeah, go right ahead, please. I'm ready to.
You thought the win probability was high enough week 2 against Dallas. I believe it was their win probability when they had the lead they did was, I believe, 98.2% of winning that game. 26-10 against the Chicago Bears. Their win probability in that game at that point of the game was like 99.3. So at that time, when Trubisky got pulled for Foles, there was a 0.7% chance the Bears were going to win that game. Look, jumping onto the Chicago train here, listen, I am not jumping on their bandwagon by any means. I am certainly happy for Nick Foles that he's out of Philly. I'm sorry, Joey, and now that he's in Chicago. But I don't understand at all how the Bears are 3-0. If you've watched their first 3 games, I don't have a word to describe it, because they shouldn't be 3-0. They could very easily be 0-3 right now. Do I think the attitude with this team is going to change a little bit with respect to, they should have lost to the Lions. They probably should have lost to the Giants. They should have lost last week to Atlanta. So they should be 0-3. Okay. I was looking at their schedule earlier. And if things keep progressing the way they did in the fourth quarter with Nick Foles, now I see them as a potential playoff team. It's incredible for me to even say that as a potential playoff team, the Chicago Bears, the weakest 3-0 team right now in football. I would say definitely the weakest. I think the second weakest 3-0 team is the Steelers, and maybe we'll get to them later. But with Chicago, I was looking at their schedule. They have so many. I don't think they're going to outlast Green Bay for the division by any stretch at all. I think Green Bay at this point is going to run away with the division. But I don't think the Bears and Packers meet up till about week 10 or week 11, so we got a little while for that. But they've got so many favorable games on their schedule coming up. So and now the fact that the NFC and the AFC are going to have a 7 seed, so you have an additional playoff team being added on both sides. I don't see how Chicago doesn't get into the playoffs at this point. Foles seems like the answer, at least offensively, for this team, a team that is struggling on both sides of the football, but somehow they're 3-0. I think they are the weakest 3-0 team in football, and I'll let Rob take it from here.
Yeah, look. This just proves Nick Foles is like some sort of godsend from the football gods, because this is absolutely ridiculous. The Bears are 3-0. Yeah, let's break down. Fourth quarter, the Bears are up, or the Lions, are up by 3 scores. The Lions completely collapse on themselves. Their defense beats themselves, and the Bears win the game. They play the Giants next week. They blow them out in the first half, 17-0. They forget to come back and play in the second half, but the Giants don't get the final touchdown on the final play of the game, an incomplete pass. So by the tiniest little margin, the Bears escape and go to 2-0. And then the Falcon, and then Nick Foles comes in and charges a 17-point comeback plus to win the game against the Falcons. And look, the Falcons are cursed. They are just cursed at this point. Back-to-back weeks of blown leads with probabilities in the 98-99% range. Unacceptable to find a way to lose these games. And the Falcons found a way to lose these games. They are 0-3, and Dan Quinn's time has got to be coming to an end. This is just torture at this point for Falcons fans. This has to stop.
And it's twice. And it's back-to-back weeks as well, which really is beyond a shame because from what we see is that we're clearly seeing beyond collapse. I don't know. I'm assuming he's lost the locker room. I have no idea. And
I mean, not offensively, Joey. I mean, if you look at
the scoring,
I'm not sure how many in terms of scoring. I think they're top 10 in the NFL right now.
They're out there. No, they're score, Matt Ryan.
They're not. I don't think Dan Quinn is losing the locker room per se. I mean, you look at.
I think he's losing
what Calvin Ridley's doing. I mean, even with a bum knee, Todd Gurley is kind of chugging along.
They're doing it. They're scoring all these points without Julio Jones. Like, that's the weirdest thing is they're doing this without Julio Jones, but the defense cannot stop anything.
Yeah, not only can they not stop anything, it is not a good thing for Atlanta again to have it back to back. On back-to-back weeks where you're not performing well on defense. On offense, you said it. Both of you said it. On offense, they're doing great. But this is a bad look from a defensive coordinator, now head coach in Dan Quinn. If he ever wants another D coordinator job, this is a humongous bad look because really, you're the head coach. I get you have a ton of responsibility. But who's calling the plays on the defensive side of things? And on top of it, too,
I'm not sure.
And not only that, it's really a shame to see with what is going on in Atlanta because at one point they were in the Super Bowl, they had the game in the bag, and then they blew it, just like how they blew the last 2 weeks. In terms of Nick Foles, listen. We've seen this multiple times. We saw it last year. Okay, double doink against former Eagle Cody Parkey in the wild card game. He was a slip away from going to the NFC Championship game if Alshon Jeffrey would catch that football. Okay, he also led the team back when 2 years ago. 2 years ago. I'm really off with my time, but 2 years ago, 2 seasons ago. He was close enough to get the team to the playoffs. He didn't have a couple of good showings in the final. In the final, I think it was 1 or 2 games, but overall, he got the team to where they needed to get to, which was the divisional round, and they couldn't get past that. But he won the Super Bowl a few years, 3 years ago. Okay, as a backup. And then back in 2013 with Chip Kelly, he had, I think it was like 27 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in a ridiculous span. We've seen it before. And not only that, we've also seen it in a system with Andy Reid. Okay? Matt Nagy is a disciple of Andy Reid. Regardless of it being this is the weakest 3-0 team. I don't know, fellas. This team has Khalil Mack. This team has a pretty damn good defensive core. And if everything can go right, regardless of losing Tariq Cohen, and also I think David Montgomery, he's a little banged up. But if we can start seeing the Nick Foles of old,
we already did.
I don't think. I mean, unless Nick Foles turns out to be this reclamation project, and obviously he's a Super Bowl champion, so he has that capability. But unless he becomes this reclamation project that is going to, we're going to take the Atlanta game and now we're going to stretch that over 14 more games, and he's going to become an MVP candidate. and I'm not saying he has to be. Let me slow that down. I'm not saying he has to be at the stage of an MVP candidate, but if he's going to become one of the best quarterbacks in football, or I would say even an above average quarterback in football over the next 14 games, maybe we can have that discussion. I mean, I said it already, Joey. I mean, I think at 3-0 right now with who's left on their schedule, I think they can be a playoff team. I'm not so sure they get any further than the first round, but look, I got to see a lot more out of Nick Foles. You're right. They do have a solid defense, but offensively, there's still a lot of question marks right now with that team. They seem like they have the right quarterback in the pocket right now, maybe to get the most out of that offense, especially a wide receiver right now that's very unhappy with that front office and Allen Robinson. So, I mean, look, they've got a game coming up this week against the Colts where I actually do like Chicago to win. So I think they could even start out 4-0. Let's see what happens this weekend.
Yeah, I completely agree. I really do believe that, and it's not. And again, I wouldn't be saying this if we haven't seen it not once, but we've seen it not only twice, but we've also seen it 3 times. Could 3 times be the charm? Could we see it a 4th time? Listen, no one thought, and I know for a fact Rob DeLuca was the one to say, that's it. Carson Wentz goes down against the LA Rams in the Coliseum. They ain't going nowhere. And I remember I was head down. It was a great year, 13-3. Yeah, good stuff. And it wouldn't come to fruition. And then against the Falcons, they played horribly. Then we know what happened the rest of the way. He's got it. He can do it. Could he do it with this set of players and the coaching staff and with some, again, disagreements between his number 1 wide receiver and the front office? We don't know. But as of right now, again, just looking at the schedule, they have the Colts, they have the Bucks, they have the Panthers. Out of all 3 of those games, 2 of which, in my opinion, excluding the Bucks, I believe, are completely winnable.
100%. I think that the Carolina Panthers, and I was going to jump on this when we were talking about the Falcons, I don't even think the Falcons are the worst team in their division. I think the Carolina Panthers, I mean, maybe by record, the Falcons right now are the worst team in the division. The Carolina Panthers, I mean, look, I was all for the Giants bringing on Matt Rule as their head coach. And look, they had Christian McCaffrey week 1, and I was not impressed with them. Look, they had a 4th and 1 in week 1 against the Las Vegas Raiders at home, and Matt Rule with an all-pro, probably the best running back entering the season in all of football, and hands the ball to his fullback. So, look, okay, you want to say it's growing pains, it's week 1. I have not been a fan right now with Matt Rule 3 games in whatsoever. And I think by the end of this season, the Falcons may even be the 2nd best team in their division. I think that they might even be offensively, especially once they get Julio back, they might even be better than the Saints are right now. So I just saw Rob's face like, is he kidding? Is he really? Wow. Yeah, I think offensively, I think they actually right now have more capability than the Saints do right now, because we don't know how long Michael Thomas is going to be out. Drew Brees cannot get the ball downfield the way he could. I mean, it's been crystal clear. We've watched the first 3 games that they've played. Brees is throwing 10-yard possession throws. You can see the arm strength is not there anymore. So I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I'm not going to totally disagree with you, Ian, because you know what? You know who was just under Drew Brees not 1 season ago? The Panthers' current quarterback. He literally learned from one of the best in the entire history of the game.
Right.
So you make a good point there. If Matt Rule can figure this out, which honestly I never wanted him to begin with, and I'm at this current moment, granted the Giants are 0-3, but still I'm not exactly impressed with how Matt Rule has done things.
No, I mean, and I'm not even saying that the Panthers I think could overtake him. I'm thinking the Falcons could actually, if they can finally get together.
Oh yeah.
Think about it. Aside from the Seattle game, they should be 2-1.
Oh, I agree.
2-1 right now. They're tied with Tampa Bay.
But here's the thing, and I don't know if Joey may have it in the rundown or not. If you were going to talk about the worst or the biggest disappointment through 3 weeks, was that on the agenda there, Joey?
Go ahead.
Because look, the biggest disappointment, in my opinion, goes to the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh.
Where did this 0-3 start come from? They lost
They lost what? Diggs, and that's it?
I will tell you right now, Rob, that look, we said this on the Primetime Rundown last week that when I did this whole Hopkins Diggs comparison, and I thought that the Houston Texans with the receivers that they had and bringing in David Johnson, and I know we have the Texans on the format for later, and I'm sorry to keep jumping around here, Joey.
That's
but
okay.
I think losing Stephon Diggs was one of the biggest losses of a key player to a team in the offseason. Much bigger right now, in my opinion, than DeAndre Hopkins, simply because Adam Thielen is a slot receiver. He's not a deep threat. Look, Justin Jefferson finally showed why the Vikings drafted him last week. There's no question about that. I mean, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, or whatever his numbers were last week.
Yep.
The stud wide receiver coming out of LSU.
Yep.
They are missing Diggs terribly. And they're stacking the box against Dalvin Cook. Cook is still getting his yards, but they are playing much tighter because they know Thielen only really runs 10, 15-yard routes. They really don't have to watch too much behind them. I mean, now you've got to put Justin Jefferson on your scouting report, but that is why right now, look, I said last week, Kirk Cousins is one of the most overrated quarterbacks in all of football. He did not deserve a cent of that almost fully guaranteed contract, and now it's showing why. I think Diggs was a huge loss, probably one of the most important losses in the offseason, and now it's showing Kirk Cousins for who he really is.
Joey, I apologize for going off topic there, but just discussing all that mediocrity, I feel that we couldn't go through all this mediocrity and not bring them up because they have by far just shocked the world with this poor start.
It's true, and especially after getting Yannick Ngakoue as well, where this team, they thought that really it could be put over the top just by solidifying that solid defensive line. And really, the defense has not really – they haven't shown up much either. Yannick Ngakoue, he's done his part. But other than that, really has not been much. Anthony Barr was put on the shelf he's gone. I think on the injured reserve, he's out for the year. So that is a humongous blow to their defensive core, as well. Again, as you're losing a veteran in Everson Griffin. There may have been things that he was able to do in the locker room, on the field, etc., that they are missing too, that we are not getting those reports from yet. So we don't.
I will tell you this: whatever Everson Griffin is doing in Dallas is not working. So
That's fair. That is.
Look, Russell Wilson just put 40 points on you. I'm not. I mean, look, Everson Griffin, when Minnesota let him go, I mean, yeah, you were certainly letting a veteran of that locker room go. But they had to move on. Obviously, you got a younger player, a more I wouldn't say up and coming, but a Pro Bowler in Yannick Ngakoue who was younger and was ready to fill that void. And the Vikings have just looked terrible. And losing Barr is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when they rely on those linebackers extremely throughout the play calling. Let's keep it moving here, fellas, as we do have about another half hour left here on the Primetime Rundown, episode number 35. We are live on Zingo Television, channel 199 on Blackjack TV tonight. I-95 Sports Network has Elmwood Park High School football out in New Jersey. If you want them, please tune in to channel 198 on Zingo Television. But otherwise, it's myself, Ian Schraier, Rob DeLuca, all here on Blackjack Television and the Blackjack Media Group. We cannot thank you enough for joining us here on this Friday evening, 8:28 here on the East Coast. Guys, I think something that needs to be discussed here, and we have to start with Ian, because this is something that I really thought about a lot this week, and it was Houston and Pittsburgh. And, and listen, let me tell you something.
Listen, I'm telling you right now, I do not want to spend 31 minutes talking about Deshaun Watson.
Let me tell you something. Deshaun Watson, the offensive line. I think we have come down with this. The offensive line is horrid. We've got that.
Yes.
Deshaun Watson sacked 13, and I swear to God, for all the viewers that are out there, I have a half a page just on Deshaun Watson because I needed to make sure my argument with Ian on this one. So let me read my half page here. So Deshaun Watson has been sacked a total of 13 times. He's thrown 4 touchdowns. He's also thrown 3 interceptions. His longest throw is 38 yards. Let's not forget Brandon Cooks. I think he's ranked in the 20s in receivers with 18 total targets. That is the highest target rate on the Texans themselves. The Texans defense to opposing quarterbacks, they allow a completion rating of 70.7%. Their rushing defense is ranked 31st. Their passing is ranked 20th. They have 4 total passing touchdowns, Fuller, Cobb, Akins, and then 3 total rushing touchdowns, 2 from David Johnson and 1 from Deshaun Watson. And they have allowed 13 total sacks, which is ranked number 2 in the NFL. Guys, I think this is time to say that not only is Deshaun Watson missing DeAndre Hopkins, but also it's very clear that he's just not getting enough time inside in the pocket. He's not getting enough. It's not working. Things aren't working in Houston right now. And that's why they're 0-3.
Well, let me ask you this, Joey. Are you alluding to the fact that it's Deshaun Watson's fault that they're 0-3, or are you alluding to? It seemed more that obviously that you're alluding to the fact, and understandably so, that the players around Deshaun Watson are failing him. And so, what I'm going to say is this, and I'm going to defend Deshaun Watson because he deserves it. Because do you have it on your notes that the fact that statistically in Week 3, this past week's game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, that he actually had his best game yet of the season?
He did. He did for sure.
He was in completion percentage and QBR. And his team led 14-3 from the onset of the game and 21-10 at the half. So
but now we have to look at the defensive side of the ball, and they can't do their job. So
it's that, but also, how about the fact that I believe the Steelers sacked Deshaun Watson 5 or 6 times in the second half? Okay. So if you're getting forced into second and longs, third and longs, because you're getting sacked every possession because your offensive line, I think the highest graded Pro Football Focus rating on their offensive line, I think on Tunsil after Week 3 was like 73.3. I mean, right. That's okay, but I mean, if you're going lower than that for the rest of the line, you've got a serious problem.
Right.
And as a result, because they couldn't get their running game going again, David Johnson only 23 rushing yards, they became one-dimensional. And Pittsburgh, with a great pass rush that they have, because I have major questions about them offensively, but the pass rush that they do have was continually getting to Watson. Like I said, 5 or 6 sacks in the second half. And it just blew up in their face. And then one huge interception by Watson is one real big mistake of the game led to the go-ahead touchdown run by James Conner. Yeah. So in the end, Pittsburgh's defense is the reason that they're 3-0. But look, last week I said that Deshaun had to find a way to do a little more. And I didn't. And even with this offensive line, because of the talent that he possesses. And look, that's why I'm defending him this week. He came out. He had a great game. He had his best game of the season. His quarterback rating in the first 2 games was in the 80s. His quarterback rating, I believe, this past week was 110. So vast improvement. No offensive line, no running game, and you come out and you put out a performance like that. So yeah, I'm going to come out and, to your credit, Joey, defend Deshaun because he actually had a good game. They still didn't come out on top because of the other issues they have around the team. But after 2 weeks, when we discussed last week, I still had major issues with Deshaun Watson because of, like I said, the talent that he possesses.
Well, that's the whole thing, because right now, as of Week 4 and as of about, I think, a few hours ago when I wrote this down, 93.8 is the passer rating in whole for Deshaun Watson. Not bad. Ben Roethlisberger is at 105.2. But as you alluded to earlier with the rushing yards and David Johnson being one-dimensional, 134 total rushing yards. But also something that I have written up top here, it says underlined offensive line is horrid. And really that is the bottom line here. And I think that's the biggest thing. David Johnson has been not only one-dimensional, but also completely invisible. He has not been able to do his job. And Deshaun Watson, and just to go back to your point a few weeks ago, Ian, where you were saying how Deshaun Watson, just because he had the security blanket in DeAndre Hopkins, he now needs to find ways to be able to figure certain things out and to be able to get these guys up to speed. Randall Cobb, Brandon Cooks, again, who's been nowhere. Will Fuller, another one who's oft injured. He's been there, but they've been invisible.
Well, let me make a good comparison for you and Rob. Okay, one's a Super Bowl champion, one's not. Would the both of you put in terms of his performance on the field, put Deshaun Watson, take the Super Bowl out of it, put Deshaun Watson in the same conversation as Russell Wilson?
Okay, it's tough.
No, that's a question.
About
the protection the last few years that Russell Wilson is, or the lack thereof of offensive line protection that Russell Wilson has had in Seattle, and he's still. I think both of them have incredible skills, incredible mobile skills. And I'm not saying that Deshaun Watson should be rushing for 120 yards. No, but somehow Russell Wilson finds a way to make it work. In my opinion, before we knew who DK Metcalf was, and before Greg Olsen, I guess, who's refining his form a little bit in Seattle, who besides Tyler Lockett over the last few years has Russell Wilson been throwing the ball to? I would say that Deshaun Watson take even DeAndre Hopkins out of the equation, has had much better targets to throw to than Russell Wilson has over the last couple of years.
It's tough to say also because you have to look at some of those targets. And again, a guy like their supposed number 2 and Will Fuller is never on the field. So when you keep on practicing with your first team and Will Fuller is usually a part of it, and then all of a sudden he can't play, he's concussed, he has a torn ACL, he has whatever the case is, well, then you also lose rhythm too. And as we did say, and we did speak about this in previous weeks too, is that it is so difficult when there's no preseason. These guys are brand new. Will Fuller is always hurt. Brandon Cooks is a walking zombie because he's just continuously concussed. But also, then again, you have one touchdown to a guy named Akins. Randall Cobb has another one too, who was your big money signing. Again, just by looking at these numbers, again, the lead rusher, the lead catcher, Randall Cobb, Will Fuller, 95 yards, 4 targets, a combined total of 9 targets. You also have Kenny Stills too, who really has not done anything either.
Well, Stills, I think, is only at this point, I mean, if their receivers are healthy, is basically the 5th option.
Listen, on paper, they're fantastic when it comes. They have an abundance of wide receivers on paper when they're healthy. But and also keep in mind too would be the what's the word I'm looking for? The chemistry between all of these guys who, again, it's a revamped system. It's a revamped wide receiver core, completely revamped. I don't know. I just don't. I think that the way it is clearly is that, again, I also think that we have not seen also since Deshaun Watson tore his ACL 2 years ago, we have not seen the same Deshaun Watson that we saw when he was a rookie.
Yeah. I mean,
we have not seen the same. His mobility is there, but it still looks to me as if that there are sometimes some hesitations.
Absolutely. And look, yeah, Ian, to your main question, he could be there, but he's not there right now. But he can get there. We all know he has the capability to get there. That's what he got paid for. He was paid because they know he can have the capability to get there. The issue is actually getting there. And yes, it does attribute to the fact that he lost his best weapon. His second best weapon is never healthy. And it just comes down to the fact that he's going to have to do a little bit of this on his own, try to make it work with what he's got right now. And yes,
he still has Fuller right now too.
Yeah, look, it's a bad trade. It was a bad trade. Let's just get that out in the air. It was a bad trade for the Texans. That was an absolute win for the Cardinals. Absolute win for the Cardinals, and it's paying off swimmingly for Kyler Murray. He's loving life down there right now with DeAndre Hopkins down there. He must be loving it. So, I mean, it's just like we'll have to give it more time, but right now Houston is just going the wrong direction. They got to figure something out real quick.
Well, I think one of those decisions is going to be, I think it's, I know that it always seems like, and Houston, remember, started 0-3 last year and won the division.
That's true.
And the problem is Bill O'Brien continues and continues. And listen, I was a Bill O'Brien fan when he first came into the league, but I think it's time for a change.
Some of these teams don't understand.
It doesn't affect personnel. So, I mean, I guess you could say maybe they need to switch a GM too, but I think that there needs to be some sort of shakeup.
Yeah, some teams, whether it's ownership, general managers, coaches, they just don't understand when time is up. They don't understand. Yeah. They don't seem to want to admit that it's time to move on.
I just think that the Texans continually get a pass, whether it be from ownership or whoever it may be, because they play in the worst division in football. It's true. I mean, look, even the NFC North at this point, obviously you at least have two teams in that division. The Colts, I mean, look, obviously Phillip Rivers is not their quarterback of the future. I mean, he's got 2 years left in the bank, and that's it. The Jaguars are in a complete rebuild. The Titans might be the future of that division, but for years it was always Houston because there's just that division is just abysmal. So every year the Texans win the division. They play that great 425 game on Saturday every year in the AFC wildcard game and get eliminated. They get a pass every year. Something's got to change in Houston, and hopefully Tennessee wins the division this year and Houston misses altogether, and there's a little bit of a shakeup in Houston, because there needs to be at this point.
Ever since Bob McNair passed away, we have not seen – things have just gone completely awry down in Houston. And you know what, DeLuca, a very fun fact.
A fun fact.
A fun fact about Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is so far down on the list of passer rating quarterbacks. He just a few guys below him. There's only 4 guys below him by the name. Kirk Cousins, Sam Darnold, and in incorrect order, sorry. Kirk Cousins, Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, Carson Wentz. That brings us to our next topic.
That was so honestly, I was so unsurprised by all 4 of those names. I can't even lie to you.
100%.
That was so bad yet so expected.
That brings us to our next topic, and we're going to start off we're going to continue on with football, and it's going to be with San Francisco and the New York Giants last weekend. And the reason why we bring this up, Rob DeLuca and Ian Schraier, is because you basically played, the second team for the San Francisco 49ers and got dismantled by a score of 36-9.
Yeah. I mean, the Giants lost to Shane Falco this past weekend, right?
Yeah,
really.
Shane Falco.
I was going to say, I think the score was, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was like 36-7. 36-7.
No, 36-9.
36-9, excuse me.
7 would
have those 2 points. Give us those 2 points.
Yeah, I'm sorry. 36-7 was the Jets. 36-7 was the Jets.
No, Jets was, I think, 36-13. I think was the
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm talking about with the Colts. The Colts.
No.
Yeah, 7 was 7 would imply we actually scored a touchdown. Okay,
correct. Yeah, it would imply that the Giants were able to move the ball downfield.
Correct. Yeah, literally. God.
So now that we discuss this, guys, what is this? Is this bad for the Giants, or is this fantastic for the rest of the season, knowing that Jimmy G, Raheem Mostert, and basically the whole first string offense and defense is not only banged up, but their second team can also do it as well. And they showed against the New York Giants. What is it? And let's hear it from the fans themselves.
Well, let's really think about this. What does beating the New York Giants really say anymore? And that's such a sad statement that just came out of my mouth. That is so true. It really doesn't say much anymore when you beat the New York Giants. It really doesn't. At this point, it's expected every week. What I saw on that field from the New York Football Giants was beyond the word pathetic. They did not show up. Look, this is how it went week by week. For week one, they lose by double digits, but they showed promise everywhere.
Yes.
Week two, they lose on the last play of the game, but there was definitely a little less positive coming out of that game. Week three, I can't dig far enough to find a positive because there weren't any. I guess I could give credit to Graham Gano. He's clearly still got it in his leg. That's the one positive. Graham Gano is finally kicking long field goals for the good guys. But look, the fact that it is Friday and Dave Gettleman is still employed by this team pisses me off beyond belief. If we look, because right now the schedule for the Giants does not really show a lot of winnable games coming up. I mean, granted, week 5 is Dallas, but it's a division game. Anything's possible. But next Sunday at 4:00, it's LA in the new stadium. They're going to get dismantled if they come out the way they did against San Francisco. It's not even going to be a close game. It's not going to be a fun game. The fact of the matter is the only bright side from losing all these games is that Dave Gettleman might not even finish this season because ownership is finally fed up with him. They finally figured out, oops, maybe when we fired Pat Shurmur, we should have let him go too because, like I said last week, now not only do they have to find a new GM, they can't go for the best GM. They have to find one that'll work with Joe Judge and company.
Well, I think the reason that not Joe Judge, I should say, I think the reason that John Mara did not get rid of Dave Gettleman after last season is simply because, in theory, at the end of last season, and from what you saw from Daniel Jones and all the criticism that the Giants took for taking Daniel Jones instead of taking at a different, instead of taking at the time who we thought Dwayne Haskins was the better option at quarterback, or taking another position of need besides quarterback that the Giants desperately needed. That is why. That is why Mara kept him on for one more year. But he did say in his post-season press conference that we need to every week show signs of improvement. There really have not been. I mean, look, Rob hit the nail on the head. I felt really good after week 1. I even, in the second half, say I felt still okay after week 2. But this was a total demolishment of the Giants, 36-9. I will tell you this, though. I am much more upset with the offensive scheme than I am with the defensive scheme, and I'm going to tell you why. Look, they gave up 36 points. But I think I don't have the stats pulled up in front of me.
Yeah, that's what happened when you're on the field for 45 minutes. Yeah, that's what happened.
Time of possession in that game was something absurd. The Giants' defense could not stay off the field for more than about 3 minutes. So for the better part of the first half, the Giants had held the 49ers, with their practice squad team or not, to 6 points. 6 points. So there was a lot. I mean, James Bradbury is looking like a hell of a signing. Right now, I believe rated the second best cornerback, has the most pass breakups of any cornerback so far through 3 weeks.
Yeah, Ian, I'll make it easy for you. In the first half on Sunday, the Giants, because it'll be easier to tell you how long the Giants possessed the ball for.
Yeah.
In the first half, 7 minutes and 35 seconds through the whole half.
Like the play that changed that game, 3rd and 22. The game is tied. It's all you're doing is you're playing back. You're playing zone. You're keeping your safeties at the first down marker at the first down line, so they don't throw a pass for 25 yards or whatever the case may be. And Darnay Holmes, and you watch the replay, makes a rookie mistake, the rookie mistake of all rookie mistakes, and just bumps after the first 5 yards his receiver off keel just a little bit, and the flag gets thrown and very well it should have been for illegal contact. What happens for the rest of that drive after the 5-yard penalty and the automatic first down? The 49ers march down the field and score a touchdown. What happens on the next Giants possession? Daniel Jones basically throws an interception on maybe the first or second play of the drive, results in a field goal. 49ers go up into the half 16-6. In times of duress like these, no Saquon Barkley, no Sterling Shepard, your franchise quarterback, who is supposed to be right now Daniel Jones, has to step up and perform. You're supposed to show improvement in year 2. He did not do that. So I will tell you this: weeks 1 and week 2, I thought he showed some promise. I am highly skeptical right now after week 3, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I will tell you,
because he needs to have a bounce back performance. Otherwise, we could be talking about Trevor Lawrence in this year's draft.
Yeah, look, leading the team in rushing is not helpful when you're the quarterback for week 3, which he did do. He did end up leading the team in rushing yards, which doesn't impress me when your best back is Devontae Freeman.
Yep.
At this point, who is
and trust me, I don't want to be talking when we just drafted a quarterback 2 years ago. And
I want to talk about Trevor Lawrence.
Talking Trevor Lawrence after starting 0-4. I don't want to have to say that 2 of our last 3 first-round draft picks have been used on a quarterback because the Giants can't seem to figure this out.
Right.
There are other areas of need. So, listen, I am highly skeptical of Daniel Jones after that game.
I'll be surprised if
it could get real alarming if he doesn't show up on Sunday.
Yeah,
so let's see where the chips lay where they may. This is, again, a lost season for the Giants. Somehow they're still only a game out of the division. I really didn't even want to mention that because that's not
in
our minds as for any Giants fan.
Yeah.
So, enough with this. Oh, yeah, they're only one game. They just got to figure out a way to turn it around.
Yeah, that's what's stupid about the NFC East is one win puts them in first place, which is embarrassing enough for the rest of the division. But, yeah, depending on who the GM is, the Giants might end up having to trade that pick at the draft, depending on who the GM is. If it is somehow Dave Gettleman, which will make me want to jump off my roof, but if it's him, he might trade the pick, whatever it might be, and get assets instead because he'll probably want to stick by Daniel Jones. So
I'd almost guarantee at this point, Rob, that if they remain on this path, and I'm not expecting them to win Sunday, and I'm not expecting them to win the Sunday after that against Dallas, I am not expecting Gettleman at this point to be the general manager after this season.
I don't expect him to last the season. I don't expect him to make it to the bye week at this point. And we've got a pretty late bye week. It's like week 11, so there's clearly plenty of time for a change to happen.
So fellas, now that we've discussed a lot about the New York Football Giants, I want to hear about the opposite side and how good this is for San Francisco. Is it good for them? Is it not good for them? And will they be team number 4 to make the playoffs in the NFC West? Will all 4 teams in the NFC West make it with all of these injuries that are not only beginning to pile up, they continue to lag on?
Yeah, I mean, look, aside from talking about how bad the MetLife turf is for all these injuries, we'll get to that in another second or something. But look, obviously it's not good. You want your starters back, especially because you don't know how long these guys can keep this up for. Because look, they played. What did they do when all these guys? Who were they playing when this all started happening? The Jets and then the Giants in back-to-back games. You got to see what they can do against a real opponent, which is. I'll leave that judgment call up to you. I'll leave that judgment up to you. To call the Eagles a real team, that's your call. But
on Sunday night, or is it?
It's a Sunday night football game. It's a real test. Unlike the Giants and the Jets, this is a real test for the 49ers. So we will see what happens then with Nick Mullins. Because Jimmy G and Raheem Mostert are both out.
I think Joey's about to tell you are completely wrong in calling the Philadelphia Eagles a test after time.
Let me tell you something. We're going to start a brand new segment. And you know what it's called? It's called What Really Grinds. That's exactly what it is. And you know what? And exactly what Rob DeLuca said. Real opponent, there you go. That's what because you know what? The Eagles are not a real opponent at all. San Francisco, in my opinion, guys, will absolutely annihilate the Eagles. Okay, I don't.
I mean, I don't know about annihilate.
No, that'll be a real.
I really don't think Nick Mullins is going to be the next Joe Montana. Let's call it what it is. But
hey, listen, you never know. Listen, let me tell you something. I don't think he's really bad because again, you look at Carson Wentz, who leads the NFL in interceptions, does not understand the playbook anymore. All of a sudden, he now has gone back to kindergarten football, and he now has a 63.9 passer rating throughout 4 weeks of football. That is the lowest. Hold on one moment, please. That is the lowest of all NFL starters into week number 4. Rob DeLuca, go ahead.
So we kind of saw a little teaser last week. When is it really Jalen Hurts time? We saw him for about
we did see.
So hold on. So let's finish. So let's finish the topic on hand, being with San Francisco. So San Francisco right now is getting George Kittle back. They're getting Deebo Samuel back. They do not have Jimmy Garoppolo back yet. They're going to have Nick Mullins. They're also getting back, they're not getting back Richard Sherman yet. I do not believe there was a tweet that was sent out earlier about who was coming back. I'm almost positive it was Kittle, it was Deebo Samuel, and there was one more that was there.
The notable names that aren't – the only notable names not coming back were Garoppolo and Mostert. That was it.
Well, and don't forget about this guy named Bosa, who's pretty good.
Well, Bosa, but he's out for the year. So he's out.
He's out for the whole time, which which we figured anyway. But I think that this is fantastic for San Francisco, because if this second team can do really well, hopefully there's no rust off of Jimmy G, off of Raheem Mostert, and really they could just flow right back into it. And a lot of these guys, again, it's next man up. This team could be, I don't want to say that, as Ian said, they're a very one-dimensional team. They're a run-based team. We get that. But you know what? We now got to see what Jerick McKinnon was able to do, and I personally believe now this week is going to be an absolute slaughterhouse. I'm not gonna put it any lighter than that. It's the truth. And you know what, Rob? What is the matter with you saying a real opponent or not a real opponent? What's the matter with you? This team is not a real opponent, okay? Let me tell you something. The Philadelphia Eagles, that's the next thing that we're going to get to, and probably one of the final topics that we're going to get to on this show. We are on Blackjack TV, so we have unlimited time, so I want to just finish this and two more topics after this. But you know what? Let's get to this, and you know what it's called? This topic is called What Really Grinds My Gears. And you know what grinds my gears? What grinds my gears is that Doug Peterson, he can call the Philly special on fourth down in the Super Bowl with a backup quarterback named Nick Foles, who turned out to be your Super Bowl MVP. 41-33, 41-33. I can't even say it. It was the final score 3 years ago. But again, I look back at what they did. And again, Carson Wentz, first quarter interception. There was nothing he was throwing to. He was throwing in the middle of the field because he couldn't throw it away. The injuries, wide open touchdown miss to Greg Ward is an absolute disgrace. Okay, next page now we're on here. The next thing is that Doug Peterson says on 97.5 WIP, the next morning, he says that it was a knee-jerk reaction, or it is a knee-jerk reaction to say that it would be Wentz to Hurts. The next thing is that he thought in terms of that overtime play where it was fourth down and he could have gone for it. He didn't go for it. Or he didn't even attempt to kick the field goal. Let's not forget, Giants fans, just a few years ago in that Super Bowl year, okay, 63 yards from Jake Elliott, and that was the game winner in week number 3, okay? That was a legendary moment in Eagles history, and also for the young kicker as well. So, in my opinion, how they called a delay a game and how there was nothing more from Doug Peterson there, it just shows how Doug Peterson has now become very soft and clearly is being affected by how this whole season, COVID season, has really turned out and has affected the Eagles, because now it's affecting from top all the way to the bottom. And I hate to say it, and I once touted at one point that Howie Roseman was one of the best general managers in all of football, has now gone down as probably one of the worst ever since winning the Super Bowl, and has not come off his Super Bowl hangover. That is what grinds my gears.
You know what, Mike? I'll give you credit, Joey. You really got through that one well. But look, I only called him a real opponent because look who my team is. Look what I'm dealing with. Look what me and Ian are dealing with here. We're dealing with complete disorganization. At least you have a Super Bowl in the last 3 years. We haven't sniffed the playoffs in 5 years, and not even a legitimate run in almost a decade. What are we looking at here?
I mean, I thought that this was really the game, and we said it last week on the show that I thought this was the game for Carson Wentz to really change the narrative of he's hurt, he's banged up, he'll never be the same quarterback ever again. 225 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. That gets 2 thumbs down, in my opinion. Look, I thought Joey hit. I don't really need to beat a dead horse here. I thought, the nails were kind of hit on the head from what Joey was stating as an Eagles fan himself. I thought he really said everything that needed to be said. I'm just going to drop a little quip. I'm going to say that it actually set football back to the year 2008. And why do I say 2008? Because that was the year that Donovan McNabb didn't know about ties in football, and they tied the Cincinnati Bengals 13-13 in 2008. So dropped a little quip in there. Why not? I just thought it was kind of interesting. It came against the same team, except the fact that Carson Wentz probably knew that there were ties in the NFL.
Yeah, and also,
whereas Donovan McNabb did not.
Yeah,
so.
that is coming from a quarterback who was throwing up on the sideline in Super Bowl 39, number 1. Number 2, also, this is also 2008 was the year that they made the NFC Championship anyway against the Arizona Cardinals. I'll never forget watching that and almost crying as a how old was I? 2008. An 8-year-old. 13. Oh boy, wow. Not only I can't do math, I can't figure out how old I was. But Ian, please, your closing thoughts with the Eagles and the Bengals. It's just there's not much really to say.
Neither team could capitalize on turnovers. There were plenty of them. There were plenty of stall drives. Yet there were 685 yards of total offense. I think. Look, I like what the future looks for Joe Burrow. I mean, he's really made some real nice throws. He's made some nice plays. There's a lot to look forward to with regards to the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow leading the way as the quarterback. I don't know if Zach Taylor is going to be the future for that team as the head coach, but I do like what I'm seeing so far out of Joe Burrow. I'm not even so sure that Jalen Hurts is the future at quarterback. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be very, very much used like a Taysom Hill is in New Orleans when that time comes. We even saw it on Sunday where I'm thinking New Orleans, where Hurts came in actually for a play and lined up at quarterback, and Wentz was split out wide, something we've seen so much of in New Orleans the last couple of years. But look, I don't know if this is the end for Doug Peterson, if this is the end for Carson Wentz, because I'm not. Like I said, this was really supposed to be a redemption game for Carson Wentz, a redemption game for the Philadelphia Eagles, for them to really pull through and show that they could actually be a team that contends for the NFC East. And I agree with Joey here. I don't think there's a lot to like right now about the Eagles.
There is not only not a lot to like here, but also just a few days ago, there was some rumors and actually a couple of pictures as in terms of proof that was spotted where Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman, head coach and general manager respectively, were caught arguing on the sidelines of practice. So clearly there's a lot of turmoil, not only in the front office, but also on the field as well. Listen, folks, it's very obvious that also the Eagles are one of the oldest teams in the NFL. They re-signed Deshaun Jackson for a 3-year contract worth $1 gazillion, and clearly it has not panned out. Malik Jackson came off of a great year in Jacksonville. He also has a Super Bowl ring from his time in Denver. That has not panned out really yet. Don't get me wrong. There were I think 8 or 9 sacks for the Eagles this past weekend, which was great, but the result was a tie. Brandon Graham is the only one that I would say, including it would be Graham and Fletcher Cox, I would say blow up the rest of the team, and that does include the general manager in Howie Roseman as well, and I hate to say it, as Doug Peterson. I think the way it was that they tried to get back Andy Reid, but try and get a disciple of him because everything worked out so well under Andy Reid. Unfortunately, one Super Bowl appearance with him, but again, you got a Super Bowl here with Doug Peterson. You have a statue outside with him and Nick Foles. I think we are coming to the end of this, especially when Carson Wentz is making $34 million starting next year, and there goes the rest of your cap. You're $60 million over. It's time to blow this thing up. Fellas, what is the most intriguing game that you may have? This is just one little pop-up here. Most intriguing game this upcoming week. There's so many games. There's also a postponement as well because of COVID-19. That is Tennessee and Pittsburgh. That was supposed to be, I believe, a 4:00 game.
That would have been one of my more intriguing games.
Yeah.
That would have been a great game, and unfortunately, that has now been called off and moved to Week 7. And it looked as if that also a few bye weeks had to be shifted around.
Yeah,
and
Ravens got moved on that one.
Ravens, right now their bye week went from Week 8 to Week 7, so we'll see how that affects them. Probably shouldn't affect them that much. But
it's a ways away. It shouldn't be too bad.
But in terms of planning, it might. Who knows? We'll see. In terms of injury, but let's start off with Ian here, and I want to see, now that your most intriguing game has now been postponed, what would be your number 2 on the docket?
Well, I think it's at this point, it's just about everybody's number 1, though. It would have to be the Pats and the Chiefs, right? It's got to be Cam versus Mahomes. It's got to be Belichick versus Reed. It's the Jim Nantz, Tony Romo. Can't wait for this game on Sunday at 4:25. Meanwhile, I'll still be watching the Giants and putting myself through that torture. But how about this for an interesting game, in my opinion? I actually think there's actually 2 other games on the schedule that are actually quite interesting. One of those games is actually the New Orleans Saints going to Detroit to play the Lions. Remember, the Saints are coming off are 1-2 right now. They won week 1 against Tampa Bay and have since taken on 2 consecutive losses. The Lions are coming off a real nice win over the Cardinals, even though Kyler Murray did not have his best game last week. And then the other game that's actually we've mentioned both these teams already tonight are the Houston Texans and the Minnesota Vikings. I think it's going to be a game to show which team in a must-win situation is really going to show up. Minnesota obviously has a solid defense, but as we mentioned, no Anthony Barr, so that's really going to hurt them in the middle of their defense, especially if Houston tries to get some semblance of a running game going. And then on the other side, you've got Minnesota, who's looking to get a pass rush going up against a very weak Houston offensive line. So I think we could see a real tight, close game between those 2 teams. And I think Detroit-New Orleans is actually going to be a little bit better of a game than advertised, just because I'm really not high on the Saints right now. Breeze is not able to throw the ball downfield. And I think if the Lions' first-round draft pick is playing, and he played real well last week against the Cardinals and Jeff Okudah, I think Breeze is going to have a hard time again with no Michael Thomas and probably Okudah guarding Sanders or whoever he's going to guard, that they're going to have some trouble in terms of options besides Traquan Smith.
Rob DeLuca, your thoughts on your most intriguing matchups, or the top 2, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, outside of the obvious New England, Kansas City, I'll go off a little off the radar there. Ian also mentioned some good ones, but one that stuck out to me a little bit, just because of what we've seen from both of these teams over the first 3 weeks, base it on records and just personnel, who's in there. You look at Colts versus Bears. You got to think that should be an interesting. Nick Foles versus Phillip Rivers. Two older side quarterbacks, but both very good quarterbacks. So you know what? I think that could make for a very nice, high-scoring offensive showdown between 2 rather, I guess, decent teams. Because again, like we mentioned earlier, the Bears could as well be 0-3, but they're 3-0. So you know what? It should make for an exciting game.
Now for me, I'll close this out. My most intriguing game this week, and I want to see how the Las Vegas Raiders are going to respond following their loss to I'm blanking out here. You're right, to New England, yeah, and they had lost 36-20, and really Cam Newton, Rex Burkhead, they made mincemeat out of the Las Vegas Raiders, and also Darren Waller had 2 receptions for 9 yards. I want to see how Las Vegas comes back. That's going to be a 4:25 game as well, but also Buffalo too, and they in a controversial victory against the LA Rams last week at New Era Field. This is going to be the second game inside the new Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. That's going to be a great game as well. as Rob DeLuca said, the Chicago Bears and the Indianapolis Colts. Those are the two games that really are on my docket, and it's not a bias with Nick Foles. It really is. The fact of the matter is that two veteran QBs going at it, and also on top of it, two disciples on both sidelines of both Andy Reid and Frank Frank Reich. Excuse me, I'm thinking of the Lakers. Frank Vogel. No, Frank Reich. So it's going to be really a good showdown, and it's going to be two pieces off of Andy Reid's tree. Coaching tree that will be battling head to head, and it should be a really good one between two teams that are both 2-1 and 3-0 respectively. Fellas, I want to just close this out here with something that is a little personal, and the reason why is because it's very, very difficult with Major League Baseball and the professional scouts. Professional Baseball Scouts Foundation that has effectively gone defunct, and a good friend that has gotten me through the business and special assistant to the general manager and to the owner, Jerry Reinsdorf. The name is Dennis Gilbert, and he's been a mentor of mine. He's been a really good guy to me when we've gone out to Los Angeles and to his home. He's opened up his home to all scouts, to MLB Network, to Fox Sports, etc., and have tried to recognize baseball scouts in the industry, because there is not a single sighting in Major League Baseball that really cares about the scouts, and it is absolutely disgusting. It is disgraceful, and the amount of work that the scouts that they do for this game. It's not recognized enough, and also because of financial things, because of the lack of Major League Baseball response this year, it looks as if that a good, like I said, Dennis Gilbert will be shutting down the Professional Baseball Scouts Foundation, and that is something that is really, really hard for a lot of scouts in this industry. Again. And I don't want to make this about myself, but I do have a personal relationship with a ton of scouts, in Major League Baseball. And some of these guys have found a lot of players, such as Todd Frazier, Lee Saris, really good guy, that they do not get recognized enough. And for Major League Baseball to really put their hand up and turn their back on a famed man such as Dennis Gilbert, is really a shame and is really disgusting. And it brings up, as we did say, this is actually the second time that we're going back to the top of the show, is the integrity of baseball is beginning to lack. And it's a dying sport. We know that, audience, the numbers, we've seen it. But to continue with this in this trajectory, I think by the time the three of us are senior citizens, baseball could be something that is very much in the back seat in terms of sports in the United States, because without scouts, some of these players would not be found, and we know very well that some players are found by scouts very, very, very low, and in some suburban areas that we never knew would happen. Obviously, I don't want to mention the name Steven Matz, but again, Steven Matz has not been great, but in the beginning, he was a flash in the pan. He was from a small town out here called East Setauket, and Ward Melville High School, where the school is about this big, and the town is about, I don't know, I'd say about maybe this big. So again, without scouts, baseball would not be where they are now, and they have not gotten anything that they have deserved in terms of recognition. And our good friend Dennis Gilbert has been doing that, and unfortunately, nothing has been shown, and effectively has had to shut down. So shame on Major League Baseball for allowing that to happen, especially because this is a live event every year from the Beverly Hills Hilton every Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. So again, that is all we've got here. Any closing thoughts from Ian and Rob as we conclude just 2 hours and 15 minutes. We're 15 minutes over, but again, that is okay on the Blackjack TV network. Any final thoughts, fellas, or any final predictions?
I think it's. I certainly hope. I really did like listening to what you had to say there, Joey, and I certainly hope baseball is not a dying sport. I know every year they're trying to make adjustments to the sport to try to increase engagement and try to increase fan attendance. Obviously, fan attendance is a moot point with regards to the pandemic. I mean, baseball is the sport that I grew up on. I went to my first Met game when I was 3 years old. Baseball was always my first love. And to hear you say something like that, obviously I know it's certainly a possibility that with the way that sport moves, that it could certainly take a back seat. But in the end, it's still the national pastime. It's a sport I love. And certainly I hope it doesn't come to that conclusion. But with regards to, what's going on right now, with all of us, and I certainly can, and I wanted to say this on the show, can't thank you enough, Joey, and everybody at Blackjack and I-95 for asking myself to come on as a co-host of the show. I didn't think when I came on the show for the first time, maybe about a month and a half ago, that this is where all roads would lead to. And I'm certainly glad to have made 2 new friendships and have a chance every Friday to really kind of talk this out with you guys and chat about sports. I know I repeat it, but I am certainly just so thankful that, excuse me, that we just get this opportunity every week.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Again, and just to credit that someone was not directly from Dennis Gilbert. I have not spoken to him yet. I've texted him. I have not gotten a response yet. This is from the legendary Peter Gammons, and we know Peter Gammons very well. That is the source of this information. I'm waiting to hear back from him. It is 3-hour difference in Los Angeles. That's where he lives. So again, Rob DeLuca, any final thoughts or predictions?
Yeah, no, Ian hit it pretty well. I'm so grateful that you have also extended the invitation to me to come on here every week now, and I have a blast, and just with everything going on in the world, it's awesome just to get 2 hours to escape it, to escape all the chaos in the world right now. It's not a good time right now to be in 2020. We got to get the hell out of this year. And just coming here every Friday night, it's just a very peaceful, very calm way to end the week out, especially a week like this one. This one was long. This one was excruciatingly long. So
it's a great, and from what's going on, Rob, it's to add to what Rob's saying, it's just a great escape from the world right now.
Amen.
There's no doubt about it. And again, folks, just to say this also, this 8.5 by 11 piece of Donnie Baseball is currently right now up for grabs. It is another promotion that we are running. We had a successful Matt Martin puck that was given away to a young lady from North Belmore that she was really, really stoked about it. And for those that may want to win a Don Mattingly 8.5 by 11 photo courtesy of Steiner Sports, please follow the instructions that are on this graphic. Do you want to win a Don Mattingly 8.5 by 11 photo? Well, you have to follow these rules. Those instructions are: you have to follow us on Twitter @ObserveEastern and or on Instagram and Facebook with the following with the following names there: @The Eastern Observer or @The Eastern Observer on Facebook as well. And also the second part of the instructional there is that you must send us a photo showing how you are enjoying baseball. So obviously with the Yankees and the Marlins moving on, it is a good giveaway here, and especially because of Donnie Baseball showing his worth with the New York Yankees. Unfortunately, could not get that ring. There's a lot of hope now as a manager. Also, fellas, on Monday night, we will be continuing the interview series powered by StreamYard. We will be welcoming NBC Sports Chicago contributor and also Chicago Blackhawks rinkside reporter Nick Gismondi. Yes, you hear him with Eddie Olczyk and with Pat Foley if you live in the Chicago area. That will be coming to you live on Monday night, October 5th at 8 p.m. Yes, I know that the Yankees will be playing at 8 o'clock, but hey, listen, work does come first. Also, this coming Saturday as well, in our relationship with the New York Professional Scouts Association, we will be highlighting Frank O'Rourke, former Major League Pro Scout for the Cincinnati Reds and the New York Yankees. He was the one to find Al Downing. Episode number 24 comes your way in conjunction with the Eastern Observer and the Pro Scouts Association this Saturday, October 3rd at 11 a.m. Eastern, right here on the Eastern Observer. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, for Ian Schraier, Rob DeLuca, and for all of us here at the Blackjack Media Group and the Eastern Observer, I'm Joey Jarzynka. We'll see you next time.